So then a year ago, Vivek came to me and he said, Apurva, I'm really worried because the threats that our kids face, the lack of moral character in our country, the lack of pride in being American, I can't fix that by founding another company. We have to go in and we have to fix the government because the government is not answering to we the people, and we need to change that. And so that is what he is doing today. He is running for President of the United States of America because we need someone who's going to deliver on this promise. And I'm so glad you guys came out. I'm so excited for you to hear from him. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Give a hand to our next round of applause for our First Lady here. Apurva's going to be she's going to be a badass First Lady, I'll tell you that. She's a surgeon who's saving lives at the cancer hospital at Ohio State every day. Throat surgeon. It'd be nice to have a doctor who treats patients in the White House, and and she's going to set an example for kids across this country. But I'll tell you what pulled me in before I had that conversation with her. I saw that red wave that never came. You guys remember that about a year ago? Yep. Why was it? They'll blame everything from abortion to Trump to whatever else. Here's why we had that red wave that never came in this country. We as a Republican Party, we have grown lazy. And I don't mean lazy just in terms of the get out the vote operation sense of lazy. I mean lazy in terms of defining who we are and what we even stand for. Biden bad is not an agenda. Okay, I'm sorry. That's exactly why we did not deliver the result that we should have a year ago. I don't sit around here bashing Joe Biden in part because it's a waste of time. He's not even the president of the United States. Not in any real sense of the word. He's not. He's a puppet for the managerial class. He's a stooge, and they're going to trot him out, trot out the next puppet. And I'll tell you about that game and how that's working right now. But how we win is we have to stand for an agenda of our own. What does it mean to be a Republican in the year 2024? I'll rephrase that. What does it mean to be an American in the year 2024? That's what we need to answer. That's what this election is about. And to me, it means we believe in the ideals of 1776. That's what this is about. If there's two things I get done as your next president, it's to revive these two basic ideals that our entire country was founded on. The first is the people who we elect to run the government. They ought to be the ones who actually run the government. We, the people, create a government that is accountable to us, not the other way around. Yet today, it's the deep state that pulls the strings of power today. It's not the elected representatives. It's not anybody else. It is the deep state in those three-letter agencies. They're the ones pulling the levers of power. And if I get one thing done as your next president, we will shut down that deep state. We will shut down these government agencies that should not exist and restore truth in our constitutional republic. You want to drain the swamp? Let's get serious about this. We'll fire 75% of the federal bureaucrats by the end of my first term. That is how you drain the swamp. We'll get half of that done in the first year. You strike the swamp strikes back. You better move quickly. This was a lesson that Trump had to learn the hard way when they duped him. They say you can't fire those civil service employees because of civil service protections. Forget that. Read the law. You can if they're mass firings. And mass firings are absolutely what I am bringing to the D.C. bureaucracy. We will shut these things down. The FBI, the ATF, the CDC, the U.S. Department of Education. I'm not just going to put Betsy DeVos on top and say, figure it out, reform it. That does not work. We got to get in there and shut it down. Return the $80 billion spent by the Department of Education to parents across this country. That's how we drive change. Don't start with last year's budget as the baseline, which is based on the prior year's budget, which is based on the year's budget before that, all of which are crooked and corrupt. Start with zero as the baseline, ground floor zero, and then ask what's actually necessary. Zero-based budgeting. That's how I've run my businesses. That's how most CEOs run their businesses. It's how we need to run the federal government. That's how you fight our national debt. It's how you make sure young people aren't born with $200,000 of debt on their shoulders that they didn't sign up for. That's how we drive change in this country. if I can't work for you for more than 8 years as your next president. That's what this is. This is a job interview, okay? You got to see it that way. That's what this is. If I can't work for you for more than 8 years, then neither should any of those federal bureaucrats reporting into me either. 8-year term limits for the bureaucracy instead of civil service protections. This is how you drain the swamp. We say America first. This is what it means. We, the people, create a government accountable to us. The people we elect to run the government ought to be the ones who actually run the government. And those people who we do elect, including the president, here's the second piece of this, owe a moral duty to the citizens of this nation. Not any other one, the citizens of this nation, the United States of America. And that's why I'm going to set our foreign policy straight as your next president. Keep it very clear. I will keep us out of World War III. We're closer to World War III than we've ever been in my lifetime. I will declare economic independence from communist China. We should not depend on our enemy for our modern way of life. And then most importantly, I will use our own military to protect our own homeland right here in the United States of America. That's what we deserve in a president. I'm not going to send $200 billion of our money, your money, so some Ukrainian kleptocrat can buy a bigger house. No, we're done with that phase of our foreign policy. I'm going to bring our troops to our own southern border and our northern border too. That's what it means to stand for the rule of law in the United States of America. We're going to end birthright citizenship for the kids of illegals. It does not apply to them. You need a president who stands for that. January 20th, 2025 going forward, no child born in this country of illegals will enjoy citizenship in the United States of America. That is true. That is what the Constitution says, and that's the truth. We will take anybody who is in this country illegally and return them to their country of origin. That's what it means to protect our own homeland. And can the U.S. president do this? You're darn right the president can. The laws already allow ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, to delegate their warrant service power to local law enforcement. That's currently the rule of the law in the United States, the law of the land. And yet we're not using it. So what we need is a president with a spine to lead us to victory in this war. And I don't use that kind of language lightly. We are in the middle of a cold cultural war in this country. That's where we are. You got to know you're in a war to win one. Otherwise, you have no chance. It's going to take somebody who knows. If our kids, poor one of my two sons, if they're in high school before we get this right, I don't think we have a country left. We're not working with a lot of time. If the interest payments on our national debt become the largest line item in our federal budget, we don't have a country left. So that's where we are right now. The hour is late, and I think we need now more than ever a commander-in-chief who will lead us to victory in this war. A commander-in-chief who isn't controlled by the special interests that got us into much of this mess in the first place. I'm a businessman. I am not from the world of politics, and I can tell you I have learned a lot this year. It's been eye-opening. Every one of these politicians is dancing to the tune of their biggest donor. I'll tell you that. It's like a law of nature. The sun rises in the east, sets in the west. Every politician's dancing to the tune of their biggest donor. In my case, that biggest donor is me. I'm not reporting to them. I report to you, the people of this country. I'm not somebody else's circus monkey, somebody's pawn on a chessboard. I'd rather lose this election and speak the truth than to win by playing some fake game of political snakes and ladders. That's the president we deserve, and that's not my choice. That's your choice. And I think now more than ever, it's going to take a commander-in-chief with fresh legs. Somebody from the next generation to reach and lead the new generation of Americans. Young Americans, my generation. I'm 38 years old. I'm the youngest person ever to run for U.S. president as a Republican. And I can tell you something about our generation. These revolutions, they're led by the next generation for a reason. Thomas Jefferson, he was 33 years old when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. believe it or not. He invented the swivel chair while he was at it. That's the kind of founding fathers we had. We got to bring that spirit back. But now what's going on with young people in the country, it's a different story. 60% of young Americans, 60% of young Americans, say they would sooner give up their right to vote than to give up their access to TikTok. I'm not making that up. That's where we are as a country. We have a crisis of national pride. And I think we require a leader who's able to look the next generation in the eye and say, we're not just running from something, we're running to something. We're running to our vision of what it means to be an American. I'm an America First conservative, but to put this country first, we have to rediscover what this country is. What are those 1776 ideals? We live in a 1776 moment right now. And if you want incremental reform, move the tax rate up or down by 1% here or there and make some window dressing changes in Washington, D.C., I'm not your guy. You can go with one of the professional politicians in this race. But if you want to revive the ideals of the American Revolution, if you want to revive a country where you're free to speak your mind as long as I get to in return, revive a country where we respect the rule of law for all Americans, one standard of the rule of law for all Americans. If you want to revive a country where we, the people, do create a government that is accountable to us instead of the other way around. Revive meritocracy, the idea that you get ahead in this country, not in the color of your skin, but in the content of your character and your contributions. If you want to revive a country where we know these ideals form the backbone of the greatest nation known to man, that even though we're an imperfect nation, we're founded on the pursuit of a more perfect union, and we're proud of it. That nobody's going to get that done in the way that I will for this country. That is why I'm in this race. That is why I'm asking you to hire me as your next president and lead our way to our national revival. This is how we won the American Revolution. This is how we reunited this country after the Civil War. This is how we won 2 world wars and the Cold War. This is how we still give hope to the free world. And if we can revive those ideals over group identity and victimhood and grievance, then nobody in the world, not a nation, not a corporation, not a virus, not China, is going to defeat us. That's what American exceptionalism is all about. And that is what we will revive to save this great country. Thank you for coming out tonight, guys. God bless you and your families. And may God bless our great country, the United States of America. We will not stop until we get this job done. I want to open this up. I'm going to sit across the table from Xi Jinping in about 18 months, so don't worry, I'll take the hard ones. Yeah. We'll start with the back, brother.
We're the main reserve currency in the world. How are you going to keep it that way? We're about 6% right now, and across the world they're going to start trading in rubles and Chinese money, and I want to know how you're going to keep us a reserve.
Yeah, or the BRICS currency, right? So the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, are coming together with an alliance, putting together potentially a new currency to displace the dollar as a reserve currency of the world, backed by the gold standard. How are we going to fix that? 2 answers to your question. Number 1, we have to address our national debt problem head on. $34 trillion national debt right now. As I said earlier, if the interest payments on that national debt become the largest line item in our federal budget, we're done, actually. Then we're in quicksand. It's very hard to find your way out of that. So I'll give you instead of the long version, I'll give you the short version, the punchline. You want to fix that? Here's how we fix it. Get the oil and natural gas out of our ground. Sell it. That buys down about $8 trillion of our national debt instantly. Next, avoid the pointless foreign wars. $7 trillion of our current national debt. 7 out of 34 is a big number. $7 trillion of that came from 2 wars in Iraq and Afghanistan that did not advance our interests. For God's sake, the Taliban is still in charge 20 some odd years later. Iraq is a more broken country than when we showed up. Now you got the establishment in both parties trying to repeat that mistake in places like Ukraine. I say no to that vision. That's number 2. Number 3 is that 75% headcount reduction in the federal bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. That's where the budgetary demands come from in the first place. Clean up the deep state, shut down many, if not most, of those government agencies. With that, our national debt's under control. The interest payments are down by more than half. Next, how do you prevent this from happening in the future? Tie the government's hands. How? Put the Fed back in its place. Here's what I'm going to do. 90% headcount reduction at the U.S. Fed and restore a single mandate. Peg the dollar to commodities. Stabilize the dollar. Gold, silver, nickel, agricultural farm commodities, that's it. Peg the dollar to something of real value. That'll put the dollar and keep the dollar as the reserve currency of the world as it should be. Fix the debt, fix the Fed. We've got that problem solved. It's a great question, sir. I'll deliver that as your next president. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Right there, sir, the bar.
I don't know if I did my phone, but we'll do it anyway. With all the news coming out today, what would you do about the individuals on Jeffrey Epstein's flight logs?
Yeah, look, we got to actually, and first of all, that's not even the whole thing. Why are we only seeing a partial list, a redacted list? So what I'm thinking right now, and a few years ago, I didn't think this way. People say this is a conspiracy theorist mindset. No, it's just a reality awakening based on how the game is played. I think that was actually a deflection. Because it was a way to at least placate the people who have been making demands for a long time to actually avoid releasing. Just give us the full list. Give us the full video footage of what happened inside and outside the prison. Tell us exactly why Jeffrey Epstein was saying before he said, they tried to kill me, I'm not committing suicide. And then what ends up happening is what it looks like his brother actually has offered a different account in recent days. My answer is we deserve a government that tells the people the truth. Lay out the full information, not the partial list, not the redacted list. Why do you need redactions? List the whole thing. We, the people, deserve the truth. We have a government that has systematically lied to us. From the truth of, all the way. It goes back. These are third rails you're not supposed to touch. The truth about Saudi Arabia's involvement in 9/11. All the way to the basis for the war in Iraq. All the way to the basis for the 2008 bailouts. All the way to the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that never was. The Hunter Biden laptop story we were told that was false on the eve of the last election. Absolutely true. To the origin of COVID-19, which absolutely did begin as a man-made virus in a lab in Wuhan, which would have been censored if you said as recently as 2.5 years ago. Weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. That's what I was referring to, the basis for the war in Iraq. All the way to how our money's being spent in Ukraine. The truth about what happened on January 6th, which we still don't know. Well, but the extent to which and how, tell us the details. Release the video footage. All the way to the Nashville Transgender Shooter Manifesto, which they refused to release. Every other shooter manifesto released except for that one until it got leaked. All the way to the Jeffrey Epstein client list. We deserve a government that tells the people the truth again. And if there's one thing I can promise you as your U.S. president, we will tell you the truth not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. Tell you the truth when it's ugly. That's how we actually rebuild trust in this country. You want to know something? If you want somebody who's actually going to get in there and speak truth to power, start by voting for somebody who's going to speak the truth to you. There's a reason why I'm the only candidate in this race who can say these things. It looks like January 6th, just look at the facts, it does increasingly look like it was the product of government entrapment. That's what it looks like. That the client, Gretchen Whitmer, we actually know that was entrapment because it was actually proved by a jury that acquitted 3 of those people. This is a systematic underbelly of the administrative state, the deep state, and the law enforcement apparatus in this country. The only person who could tell you the climate change agenda is a hoax because it has nothing to do with the climate. That the carbon capture pipeline making its way across half this state, including the western and northern part of this state, using eminent domain to seize the land of innocent farmers, is based on incorrect, false, and illegal premises using eminent domain to steal the land from innocent farmers. To tell you Ronna McDaniel needs to resign as the failed chairwoman of the RNC. That all part in every peaceful protester from January 6th on day 1 in office. To tell you that we'll strip the pharma companies of their special liability shield for liability for vaccine injuries. That I'll strip that in my first term in office. There's a reason why I'm the only candidate who can even tell you these things, because today our politics is corrupt. You need a president who's not bought and paid for by that same system. So are we going to do that for the Jeffrey Epstein client files? Of course. And hold the bad actors accountable? Yes, we will. I've said my first term in office, first days in office, any government actor who has tried to pressure a private company like a tech company or a bank to do something through the back door that the government couldn't do through the front door, we will publish it and we will hold the bad actors accountable to the fullest extent of the law. That's how we restore the rule of law in this country. That's how I'm going to lead us. It's not going to make a lot of people happy, but I'm not in this to make friends. I'm in this to swear an oath to the Constitution and to keep it. And you know what? We the people, we can handle the truth. We demand the truth. We require the truth. That's the standard I want you to hold me to as your next president. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you. Eileen. Good to see you.
I love Vivek. I've been following all over.
Got to know you since very early stages of this campaign, Eileen.
You know what? You called me on March 17th. If you can imagine, you just had announced 2 weeks before that you're going to run for president. And you talked to me on the telephone for 20 minutes. You didn't know me from a load of hay. But I've come to know you.
You made a lot of sense in those. I remember that call. You actually said a lot, as this is my kind of person, actually. So thank you, Eileen.
St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you.
Anyway, what I want to say to you, I'm making a lot of calls now on your behalf. And there are a lot of people who really see you as, I'm going to call it a Trump 2.0. But I'm telling them what you've been saying to us. They're selling us the rope that they're going to hang us with come the general election. So can you tell the people in this room why you're saying that? Because
Sure.
I'm telling people that don't waste your vote on Trump in this caucus, which is so important in Iowa.
Sure.
For somebody that's going to hang us in the end.
Sure, and I think that for a system that's going to hang us in the end is really the answer here. So I'm going to give people the backdrop, because you all have a decision to make. It's an important decision. Every one of your voices and votes at that Iowa caucus, it's like the equivalent of 1 million people. That's actually the impact that it has on selecting the next president. So let me just address this one directly, because this goes to the heart of your choice. There's 2 America First candidates in this race, Donald Trump and myself. And I respect Donald Trump immensely, more than the other candidates in this race. And it irritates me. The other ones have been licking his boots for years for money and endorsements, and now they're bashing him for something or other. I haven't been licking his boots for years. I've been building businesses. But I will recognize that he was an excellent president for this country. He actually did his part, kept us out of war, grew this economy, and reignited our America First movement. I say reignited because it didn't start in 2016. Actually, he stood on the shoulders of giants like Pat Buchanan or Steve King. And I was actually proud to get Steve King's endorsement. And I'm not afraid to say that. I actually believe that he's a patriot. They stood on the shoulders all the way going back to George Washington. The America First movement began in 1776, but I would give Donald Trump a lot of credit for being a good president. But I want you to open your eyes, people. Let's get to reality here. If you think that they're going to let this man get anywhere near the White House again, I want you to open your eyes. I want you to see what's staring us in the face. This system, these people, they are going to stop at nothing. And I mean nothing. To keep this man not within spitting distance of coming back into power again. They're making it clear every way, which way they can. First, it was vile words that they would use, rhetoric. Then they ramp it up to civil lawsuits. Then they ramp it up to state-level prosecutions. Then federal prosecution number 1. Then federal prosecution number 2. Now forget the judicial system altogether. Let's just have people remove them outside of the ballot, outside the judicial system. And I've done everything I can to stand up against this. I filed a FOIA demand of the Biden administration to tell us the truth about what Biden and Merrick Garland told Jack Smith about those prosecutions, filing cases against the Biden administration. I voluntarily said I would take my name off the ballot of states from Maine to Colorado if they remove Trump from the GOP primary, because that's just the right thing to do to stop election interference in our own primary. Every Republican should be doing that. And I've said that I would do it. But at a certain point, we just have to open our eyes and see we're walking into a trap here. Do you think you're going to... What I would tell your friends, Eileen, is fast forward to a year from now. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen between now and then. Do you think we're going to look back in that scenario and say, oh, we're shocked by what they did to him? We didn't see that one coming. Or are we going to say, what the heck were we thinking? Walking directly into that trap. They want to narrow this down to be a 2-horse race, whether that's in the general or maybe even in the primary. to trot out whoever's actually going to advance their agenda and eliminate Trump one way or another. That's what's going on. It's hiding in plain sight. You study world history, you study the history of this country, you open your eyes to what's happening in the last year. I need you to make sure that we don't walk into their trap. The guy got this fight started, and that's why we respect him and we love him. But now it is our job to finish it, to finish what he began. He rolled over that log. We saw what crawled out. I'm bringing the pesticide. You got the future of America First standing right here, all right? We need somebody to lead us to our future. We're in the middle of a war for the future of this country. You deserve a commander-in-chief, a general who is not yet wounded in that war. Somebody with fresh legs to lead us to the next 250 years. This started 250 years ago. This will not end. Our America First movement cannot end with Donald Trump. It doesn't belong to him. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to you, the people of this country. And so I'm asking you to do the right thing for this country, to open your eyes. I don't want to, you asked me to say it, so I'm saying it with you directly, Eileen. That's what I think is going to happen. I think if we go down the other path, fall into the trap they've laid for us, sometime in the spring, between April and June or July of this year, they will find some way or other, whatever that is, to eliminate him. And I don't want our own America First movement to say we're done with that, whether it's some sort of neoliberal neocon or whether it's a puppet that comes through the Democratic Party. Either way, this country loses. And so I'm asking you to do the right thing on January 15th. We can put a stop to that right now. The system isn't made for a guy like me to do this. The mainstream media sure as heck doesn't want me in this race because I'm saying the things. They cut off my town hall with CNN early because I was telling them hard truths about what actually happened on January 6th. They couldn't even tolerate it for their audience. But they don't get to decide who wins this Iowa caucus. You do. And so I'm asking you for your help. And if you all do your part, you tell 10 people in this community what we talked about right here tonight. You bring them to the Iowa caucus too. I think we're going to win the Iowa caucus, Eileen. I think we're going to win the Iowa caucus for the same reason we're going to win the general election in a landslide. We're bringing people into this movement who haven't been traditional surveyed Republicans in the past. Young people, you've brought many of them to our events. We're visiting college campuses. The next generation that's hungry for direction. It's not that they're against us. They're hungry for somebody that actually stands for something which the Republican Party hasn't done for a long time. 40% of our donors to this campaign are first-time ever donors to the GOP. That number is 2% for other Republican candidates. We will win the general election. You're a first-time donor as well? I appreciate that, brother. Thank you. We got some of them in this room. I'm proud of that. So we will win the Iowa caucus in a surprise for the same reason that we will win this general election in a landslide. And we require a landslide. We don't have elections that we can really take to the bank in this country, let's be honest. What I'll give you as your next president, I'll deliver minimal standards. Single-day voting on Election Day as a national holiday with paper ballots, government-issued voter ID to match the voter file, and English as the sole language that appears on a ballot. That's not too much to ask. That is common sense. That's not racist. That's not xenophobic. Yesterday, because they tried saying things like this that Steve King and I have been saying, they say, you're not condemning white supremacists. Do I look like a white supremacist to you guys? Is there anything racist about a voter ID law, a voter ID to match the voter file? No, there's not. But we're not there yet. And we got to get there. And what that means is this has to be a landslide election. Like what Reagan delivered in 1980. That's what we need in this election. So you all make me your nominee. You do your part. It's my accountability back to you to deliver a landslide moral mandate. And a landslide minus some shenanigans is still going to be a decisive win. That's where we are. We're skating on thin ice. We don't have it in us right now to have another 50.1 contested election. I'm worried there are several things that I could see happening this year. We're a hair's trigger away from, I think, a domino effect that could permanently lose our country this year ahead of us based on what happens in the next 12 months. I'm here to make sure that doesn't happen. So I'm asking you to do the right thing. On January 15th, you guys make me your nominee coming out of the Iowa caucus. Our country's best days will still be ahead of us. That's what I'm asking you for, Eileen. And thank you for asking that. I appreciate it. Thank you. Right there. Oh, we're having too much fun. I was just getting warmed up.
So I'm a full-time student up in Sioux City, Iowa at Morningside University, and I'm planning on going to basic training this summer, and my girlfriend is planning to follow suit next summer. What are you going to do if you win?
Give this man a round of applause. We're wishing you well, brother. I'm proud of you.
So what are some active steps that you're planning to keep us out of Ukraine, out of Israel, and eventually out of NATO?
Well, and the UN. Let's put the UN on the list here, because actually this is... So we should stop using our taxpayer money to fund institutions that are hostile to our sovereignty. From the WHO to the WEF to the UN. Not using our taxpayer dollars to prop any of that up. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking? 18. You're 18. You must be, just graduating now. There's two things I owe you as your next president, to you and your generation. That you don't deserve to have $200,000 of national debt on your shoulders that you didn't sign up for. That's not fair. And to make sure we're not going to send you to fight somebody else's war with a gun over your shoulder in somebody else's trench. That's my responsibility to you as your next commander-in-chief. We owe that to you and your generation. How are we going to do it? It's by reviving the moral clarity of George Washington in 1796. A lot of people mistook him for being isolationist. He's not any more isolationist. I'm not isolationist. But we will look through every conflict or potential conflict through one prism. What advances the American interest? Think of this as a father. I'm a father of two sons. My moral obligation as a father is to my family. My moral obligation as your next president is to you, the citizens of this country. And so the Ukraine war does not advance our interests. I'll tell you, if China does invade Taiwan, in the near term, that doesn't work for us. Because then they have an economic gun to our head. So I'm the only candidate to say we will defend Taiwan in that scenario. I'm the candidate to say, you know what? Israel is our ally in the Middle East. And it's wrong what Hamas did to Israel. It was immoral and it was subhuman and it was medieval. But it's better for us and better for Israel if we stand diplomatically for Israel's right to defend itself without engaging militarily ourselves. That's better for the United States and it's better for Israel because then they get to actually determine their own national self-destiny. And so my phone call with Bibi, here's how I would protect you, is to, while also doing the right thing for our allies. Right now, everyone from the UN to the EU to the US even is second-guessing their decisions. I pick up the phone and tell them, you know what? You want to smoke those terrorists on your southern border? We support your right to do it. And you know what? We have the terrorists on our own southern border. We're going to smoke the terrorists on our southern border. That's my responsibility as your president. Is there some risk? I mean, I think that anybody, part of what makes what you're doing for this country honorable is that there is some risk involved in fighting for and protecting this country. But my obligation to you is if, God forbid, we will ever put our sons and daughters in the risk of harm's way, it will be to protect this country, the American citizens, right here in our own homeland. We're not going to station our troops in Germany where we've got 40,000 of them doing God knows what, when Germany isn't even paying less than 2% of its GDP for its own national defense as it is obligated to by its NATO commitments. They say they're in NATO, they're not keeping their commitments. No. We're going to move those troops to our own southern and northern borders in this country. So you can be proud and know that when you are taking that risk and putting your body on the line for this country, that you know you're protecting Americans like those who are in this room tonight, and be proud of it. And that is how we revive national pride in this country. And the last thing I will tell you is that we will once again stand for our veterans and our active duty military members as well. We don't do that today. I'm not going to give you lip service. Oh, we stand, protect our troops. May God protect our troops, and then do nothing. No, actions speak louder than words. I think when we bring people back from active combat duty, they deserve 6 weeks of paid decompression buffers in a third-party location. That brings down the PTSD rates by 80%. Veterans deserve privacy restrictions to be able to report their PTSD, which so many are not doing today. because they're afraid of getting tagged with the red flag law. They deserve those privacy protections. Make sure veterans have access to true medical choice through the VA system. That's spicy for some Republicans, maybe. I don't care. It's the truth. They're turning to fentanyl and suicide. Up to 40 veterans a day committing suicide in the United States. That's unacceptable. That's not a country if we're not actually standing for our veterans. I come from the private sector. You know who sets the pay of the CEO and the CFO and who hires and fires them? The shareholders. I'll restructure the VA such that the veterans of this country are treated as the shareholders of the VA. That'll get the VA back in line. You're not going to drive 150 miles to get care. You'll get it from community-based medical care near you. And on my watch, here's the other thing I'll tell you, and I've made this commitment. Salaries for those in active duty military and veterans benefits for our veterans will not be subject to federal taxation, period. So that you're actually able to live a dignified life while also serving this country. We'll give you the final word, young man, right next to you at the same table. Go ahead. Sorry, Todd.
So,
I couldn't leave him hanging.
With your idea of reducing federal employment by 75%,
Yep.
I wanted to ask about not just the organizations that subvert and manipulate the American people and violate the values of the Constitution, but what about the agencies that like the FCC or the FDA
Sure.
that deal with that deal with standards for consumers and stuff like that, like
Yeah. So I'll address both of those. It's a fair question, sir. What's your name, if you don't mind me asking?
or do you believe like they'll still be able to do their same job after you reduce it by that much? They'll still be
I'll tell you, it's a little bit of both. What's your name, if you don't mind me asking?
Damon,
And how old are you?
19.
19. Well, I'm grateful that as a young man you're coming here tonight with you guys friends. You guys came together? Nice. Well, thank you both, and thank you for asking a thoughtful question. So I'll tell you, I've actually had experience dealing with the FDA. I've overseen the development of 5 FDA-approved medicines. I can tell you from experience, we could have developed each of those medicines for a tiny fraction of the cost, which would, by the way, if that was the system-wide way it worked, the cost of prescription drugs would be a fraction of what it is today because you'd have more competition. You know who doesn't want it? Big Pharma, who has lobbied for those actual heightened restrictions to keep the competition out. Think about the SEC, all the ways they will go after what the public company reporting requirements are, and yet SBF and FTX are able to swindle what? Billions, if not tens of billions of dollars. And so these are failed institutions. And so I actually want to answer your question directly. It's an earnest question, right? You would think the SEC and the FDA, I mean, these are doing important work protecting citizens. What, you want to say something?
Yeah, what I'm saying is that like they do a lot of important stuff, like maintaining the quality of meat and dairy and cheese and eggs.
Yeah, so I'll tell you something. I'm pretty confident that if we didn't have the FDA, we would actually have at least the same quality actually maintained. Because people would say that I need a third party through the private sector to still step up and certify it anyway. So that's actually what would exist. And these regulators were in the worst of all worlds, where they give people a security blanket to think that they're actually looking after your interests. So it gives people and lulls us into submission, when in fact in 9 months they're rolling out a COVID vaccine where they fail to disclose the risks, force you to take it, and say you're going to be a pariah if you don't. In the military, that you couldn't serve unless you actually got both of those shots. By the way, we said anybody who's been kicked out of the military that way will be reinstated with 1.5 times back pay, because that's what it means to do the right thing for this country. So when I come even to the agencies like the SEC and the FDA, we're going to have a 75% headcount reduction across the board. Reduce the dead weight. And many of those regulations that they have passed, they're actually unconstitutional. Congress never passed those regulations. So the way things work in the U.S. system, in our constitutional republic, for the better, is that we, the people, elect the representatives who write the laws. Well, what's happened is they've delegated their dirty work to these 3-letter agencies that are basically making up the law, but without being accountable to anybody. You can't vote them out. You can't sue them. You don't even know who they are. That's what's going on today. And so that's what we call the deep state. That's the essence of the swamp. That's the bad news. The good news is the U.S. president can fix this without asking anybody for permission or for forgiveness. Because as your next president, I will run the executive branch of government. Article 2 of the Constitution says there's one executive branch of government, not 2, not 100. So if somebody works for you and you can't fire them, that means they don't work for you. It really means you work for them. Because you're responsible for what they do without any authority to actually change it. And I refuse to be that puppet sitting in the White House. And so I know it sounds counterintuitive, but I want you to understand how it has to work. A lot of presidents come in with good intentions, thinking, well, these agencies, how are we going to protect them from doing the good work? And am I going to cut too much fat that I don't cut enough muscle? They're always taking a risk. One risk is you don't cut enough fat. You cut off one head of an 8-headed hydra, it grows right back. This time you got to strike the thing at its core. I'll take the risk of cutting some muscle. And if we really overcut, fine, we can figure out what we overcut. But that's the way we're going to do it on my watch. On day one way we're thinking about doing this is on day one. If your Social Security number ends in an odd number, you're out. If it's an even number, you're in. Day 2, I promise you, the federal government will be half its size, and not a thing is going to break. The sun will still rise in the east and set in the west. Right? And you know, it sounds like a comical idea. But actually, it has to be done something like this. Because otherwise, and this is what stops the presidents, and I want you to understand how the law works. These bureaucrats will otherwise sue you. They'll say, oh, you engaged in political retaliation. Oh, that's a civil rights violation if there's disparate impact based on race or gender. So it has to be large-scale, indiscriminate reduction of the federal bureaucracy. This is where they duped Donald Trump. They duped him. He wanted to do stuff like this, but they said, oh, sir, you can't do this. And that's why we need a president who will, yes, break glass, come in as an entrepreneur, an outsider, break glass and do what's right, but also a president who knows and understands the law and the Constitution of this country. And those two things don't usually go together. Right? You have the academic law type over here. You have the business guy with sharp elbows. Those two things don't usually go together. That is what pulled me into this race. That is what gives us and our family our sense of duty to this country. Right. Every one of us has our own unique God-given gifts. You're 18, you're 19. Let me tell you guys something. You have your own unique God-given gifts. Every one of us does. It is our moral duty to use those gifts to do the right thing in the short time that we're given. And I'm in this to be your next president, not because there's going to be some political messiah coming from on high from the White House, and that's me to save all of us. No, it doesn't work that way. If we are going to be saved, it is going to be because we save ourselves. Every one of us has a role to play. I'm not letting you off the hook that easily, and you're already doing your part, man. Every one of us has a role to play, but I'm going to play mine as your next president. Shutting down that deep state is where it begins. Declare independence from communist China. Keep us out of World War III. Move our troops to seal our own southern border in this country. Grow this economy. But if there's one thing I tell you, when we leave office in January of 2033 that we accomplish for this country, is that young people, people in your generation and my son's generation, they will once again be proud to be citizens of this nation we call home, the United States of America. And you deserve to be proud of this country. We have every reason to be proud of this country. And by the time we're done, we will not be this nation in decline anymore. We're not going to be at the end of the ancient Roman Empire, as they teach you to believe. You know what I see in this country? You know what George Washington would say if he were alive today? 250 years later, what would he say? He would say, I think what he would say is, what I see is a nation that is still a little young, actually. That's what George Washington would tell us. A nation that still has 250 years and then some still left. A nation that is going through our own version of our adolescence. Figuring out who we're going to be when we grow up. That's what our founding fathers would tell us if they were alive today. So no, we don't have to be this nation in decline. I think we still can be a nation in our ascent. That's what I believe. It is not morning in America now. I'm not going to come in here and look young people in the eye and tell you, hey guys, it's morning in America. It's not. You have eyes. You can see. But it can be. I can't tell you the American dream is alive and well. It is not. It is alive and hanging on for life support. That's where we are. But it can be. I need you to do your part. And if you all do your part, I promise you, my wife Apurva and I and our family, we will do ours to make sure, not in some fake politician way, but in a true way, to make sure that our country's best days can actually still be ahead of us. To make sure we can actually look you in the eye and tell you that you do get ahead in this country with your own hard work, your own commitment, your own dedication. And that you know what? You are free to speak your minds at every step of the way. That is the American dream. Yes. That is what we are running to. And with your help, on January 15th, that's what I'm asking you for. With your help, that is what we will revive to save this great country. Thank you for coming out today, guys. God bless you and your families. And may God bless our United States of America. Thank you all. God bless. Thank you. Thank you. No. Drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear. Stop paying people more money to stay at home instead of to go to work. Peg the dollar. Inflation's behind us. Economic growth is in. That's my answer, my man.
How do you peg the dollar to commodities that you don't own as a government?
Same way we had a gold standard before, actually. So you create a basket and a tracker. We can talk after. There's a technical method to do this. Thank you. God bless you guys. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
The revolution and a man to lead it, and we can count on. We need your help and support on January 15th. And as we lead up, sign up with one of us for a commit to caucus card, be a precinct captain, volunteer on phones and doors, whatever it's going to take. There is a place for you in this revolution. Please join us. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you on January 15th.
We're not going to stop till we get this done. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you,
Hello there.
guys.
I love what you
We got some
said.
pizza in the back,
Yeah.
please,
Thank
too.
you.
So don't go
Thank
home.
you. Spread the message in this
Enjoy that.
community. I love your
Yep.
shirt, my man. Thank you. Love your spirit. I love your spirit, brother. We're going to do this. We're going to do this and get this done. Eileen.
Hey, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but you know what? That's the question I'm getting asked when I'm making these calls.
That's what we need to answer. They're not going to let him do it. Do the right thing for the country.
Yeah. So that's what
That's
I'm...
the answer.
Okay.
Thank you.
These
Hey,
people are from Nebraska.
Good
I'm
to see you guys.
sorry.
Thank you for coming
I wanna
over,
take
guys.
your
Thank you.
picture.
Thank you. Thank
Wait
you.
a minute,
Thank
stop
you.
it.
Thank you.
Oh,
Whenever you're ready. Good to see you. Good to see you.
nice
Thank
to
you.
see you. Work or
Thank you.
not?
How you
I
been?
would love. We would love to be in a
Good. It's
picture.
good to see
You
you.
get it ready?
Yes, yes.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I know
Thank you.
time.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you being here. Hey, where's the young guy here? Thank you for asking that question, man. Very earnest question. And I've dealt with both those agencies, and I can tell you, it's not what you imagine.
I know they
Once
do
you
a
see
lot
it,
of things that aren't necessary,
Yeah.
but I know that. But like,
and with 25, with a 75% cut, we'll still have everything we need with all the stuff we don't need.
maybe this is just part of the educational system. But I've heard stories about how bad canned meat and.
Yeah. No, it's fair. I'm proud of that young man. Thank you.
Here you go.
Thank
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Just a white dot.
Thank you, Vivek.
Thank you, guys.
Nebraska's a
They're going to see
I
you in
appreciate that,
trainer.
man.
do what we can.
Thank you. That means a lot to me, guys.
right, thank
We're
you.
going to do this in
Tell them.
Iowa and
Kearney,
January 15th,
Nebraska.
and we're going to do this
I'm
after that.
trying.
Thank you. We're going
Gotta
to do this.
win. One more
time.
I think we're going to
Oh,
win
here,
this.
let me
I think
get
we're going to
you.
do this. Thank you. I
Patty's
appreciate it.
making calls for you too.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you so
lots
much.
of
I
them.
appreciate it.
Good
If you do
one,
that,
Patty.
I mean, I think we're going to deliver a shock. And we do this here. I'm
Wanna
your
start
next
tomorrow
president.
morning? Start
Here's
Absolutely.
two more
Thank you.
people. They're
Thank you.
from
Hey, guys.
Harrison County.
Oh, you are.
I'm from Ohio.
You're from you are. Go Bucks. OH. IO. Good to see you.
First time caucus goer.
Thank you. Thank you. First timer.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to do this for us.
You bet.
You
Nice.
spread the message in this community, and we're going to do our part. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Hi.
It's good to see you. What's
Good
your
to
name?
meet you.
Good to meet you guys.
I'm Dylan. I'll see you next Wednesday.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I got a ticket for the Timcast event.
Good,
so-
awesome. I'm
Yeah.
excited for that.
I was very happy you did that.
Yeah, it's the
Good
best way to
idea.
do it. It's more direct to the people. It's
Very
not
easy.
none of the fake media stuff. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you, guys. Oh, I appreciate that, guys. You spread the message in this community and come out for that caucus. Thank you, guys.
Can I get a picture?
Yeah, let's do it, brother.
I really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it, my man.
Picture possibly?
Thank you. Let's do it, brother. Thank you. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Right here.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great
man.
job.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
It means a lot, guys. Thank you. Time? All right. Thank you, guys. Yep, thank you.
Can we get a picture?
Yeah, let's do it. Yep.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Spread the message
Thank
in
you.
this community,
We will.
guys,
Thank
and come
you.
out on January 15th. Thank you, man. I appreciate you being here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Yeah, let's do it, sir. Thank you. Proud of you and for being here and you spread the message, brother.
Good looking beard,
We're
guy.
going to do it. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you,
One
guys. I
quick,
appreciate it.
one quick question.
Thank you.
Being you're not a politician, is it in the back of your mind they'll do to you what they did to Trump?
Of course they're going to do that.
Okay.
Of course they will.
Yeah.
But we can handle it.
Okay.
And I'm not going to, at least I know the Constitution and I'm guided by our purpose. And I believe if God put us here for a purpose, it's our job to do it. That's what I believe.
Good
So
luck.
thank you. I
bet.
appreciate that, my man. Thank you, man. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you, man. Thank you guys for being here. And you guys spread the message. Bring other people out who haven't been to the caucus before. Spread the word. We're going to shock the world on January 15th with your help. All right. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. This is a great bar, guys. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, man. I like your question.
Can I go?
Hey, guys, good to see you. We love this place. So thank you for having us back. All right.
Can I snag
Let's
a
do
picture with
Yeah,
you?
let's get a quick one right now.
Can I shake your hand? Is
Yes,
that right?
yes.
First time caucus. Let's go.
Thank you, man. You spread the message, and we're going to do this.
Cheers.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Yeah, man. You're serving. I
Last
appreciate
time,
it.
I think we were both blinking during the
Okay,
photo.
got it. Thank you, man. Perfect. Not this time. Proud of you, man. Keep up the good work.
You too.
And we got to write 46 on it because it's you. Perfect.
There you go. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Hey, my granddaughter
Thank you, guys.
was clapping for you the whole time.
I love her. She's her energy lifts me up. Bye-bye. We'll see you soon, sweetie.
Thanks for coming
Thank
again,
you,
man.
man.
It's an
You
honor
guys are
again.
awesome,
Thank you. I
brother.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you, man. It's good to have
Anytime.
you. We're going to do our part.
Appreciate
We'll
it.
kind of spread the message in this community,
Oh, yeah.
and we're going to come back and celebrate
Awesome.
once we make it. I promise you.